Let's riff.
Let us flow.
I immediately got nervous when he hit the red button.
It was green, now it's red.
Oh, shoot.
Green button, red button. But we're here.
We're here.
We're here.
We're here.
Hello, Zach.
Hello, Tim. Ryan.
Hello, Zach.
What are you doing?
Licking myself.
Nicholas.
Zachary. Or Raya.
Wow. Busting out the full name.
Yeah, Raya.
Jesus. You know, it's kind of it's both fun and really weird to be sitting here with you guys because I feel like for the past 2 years,
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
pretty much,
Yeah.
we've been just doing Zoom meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes like almost every other week.
Yeah.
And then catching back up, hearing about the big news.
Yep.
And now we're here in Virginia Beach. Like, it's pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It is. Yeah.
Meeting people over the internet is opening my eyes.
I'm glad I didn't get catfished, which is pretty cool.
It does take a while to feel out the situation.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So, what did you guys think about today? Because it was fucking wicked cool.
I was just about to ask, is this PG? And you just said the F-bomb, so it sucks.
This is a PG fucking podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It was cool to show you around a little bit,
Yeah.
but it was also terrible.
Oh, it wasn't that bad.
I don't. Our faces are wind burnt. I think I'm still wet from the water.
Yeah, 100. My core is still cold.
Yeah.
The 3-foot seas and 3 foot of water was not cool.
No, that was not good. A lot of wind. A lot of wind.
It was fairly reflective of what's actually a normal day for us.
Yeah, we deal with that a lot. Like I feel like I cuss way too much out in the water, whether it's a kayak or boat or something. It's just, why do I do this? I'm selling everything when I get home.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part was when Nick got snagged on the wire.
Right when gale forces came.
Gale force wins.
Yeah.
Tim is like, oh shit, I just broke my back.
Yeah.
And Ryan's like, I don't know if I can hold her, guys.
Yeah. There was like
I almost said abandoned ship, but
there was like 3-inch play there where my leg was broken. But
Yeah,
we're here.
we made it.
Yeah.
It was spinal,
Yeah.
but we're good.
Mainly spinal. The extra warmth and feeling could be internal bleeding, but
Yeah.
I think we're good.
You
It
stayed
probably
in
would have
the
been
boat.
nice though, the warmth of internally bleeding.
Yeah, especially with the ride back in.
Yeah,
that's what.
100%.
That's
Against
why.
the wind, against
yeah.
the current.
That's why I peed my pants, but I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
You're not cool unless you pee your pants.
He didn't have his wetsuit on, so we didn't have the heart to tell him.
Oh God. Well, I gotta say, Virginia Beach is a pretty rad little town or city, right?
Yep.
As Tim said,
Technically
a city. Having never been here, it reminds me a lot of home and being in Rhode Island. But at the same time, it's just like blown up on a scale that's like far exceeds Rhode Island in terms of just the size of the bay. The bridges here are 10 times.
Got cool
13.
bridges.
Yeah, cool, wicked cool bridges.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tyler loves the bridges here.
Yeah.
But it's just a really cool place. Like, you guys got everything. You got the marshlands, you got the bay, go tuna fishing, get out on the offshore trip, and then not to mention all like the cool little spots to go eating. And where'd we go? Aloha.
Aloha snacks.
Aloha snacks.
Yep.
Great poke.
Yeah.
Very reminiscent of Hawaii.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Good food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fair compliment considering you spent some time over there. Absolutely.
yeah, it was really good. It
Yeah.
was really good. So not growing up, because you guys all went to school here.
Yep.
We
College,
did.
Virginia
Yeah.
Beach
Mhm.
College.
Yep.
Was that something that, like, what we did today, going out, fishing, eating, drinking beer, going over to the sandbar and having provisions, as Nick would say, the little charcuterie boards, which, by the way, was phenomenal.
Thank you.
That's something that you guys do on a daily basis. Not daily, but when you guys do have the opportunity to come down here and hang out and get together and kind of reminisce on college and where we're all going and in our lives, is that something that today was kind of reflective of?
Yeah. I mean, that's as far as the three of us go. When we get together, which we don't get to as much anymore since I
Mhm.
moved. My family moved to Richmond, which is about an hour and a half east of here. I mean, that's what we do. You know, it's almost exactly like today. Typically, we go out a little earlier than we did today.
Mm-hmm.
we get skunked like we did today. We find a sandbar to pull up on and have a couple cold ones and eat some food and just hang out. You know,
Yeah.
shoot the shit, laugh.
Yeah, I couldn't say if Nick wasn't in town, I wouldn't have not gone out today. But no, not at all.
No.
But since like every time we do all get together, we all go out no matter what,
Yeah.
and we just make fun of it. And most of the time, we just drink beer because we suck at fishing.
Well, there's
And
always
it's like 20-mile-an-hour winds, and
Yeah.
it just never works out perfectly. You expect it, but here we are. We're good
Yeah.
friends.
It certainly used to be easier when we were all in Virginia Beach, but it's now we put.
Thank you for that.
It's something a little more
effect.
to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, we maybe took it for granted, I guess, how easy it used to be for us to just hop up or, you know, text each other at 10 o'clock at night and say, hey, there's going to be a little bit of bump. Let's go surf at 7 a.m. and then everybody still be able to go make it to work on time.
Right.
And, you know, that's not quite the situation anymore, but it makes it more special when we are able to get together and do what we did today.
Yeah.
yeah. There's always that chance that it's a worthy shot at taking.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I think now that we're several years into our post-college life and in the mix of working jobs and stuff, and, I mean, it would have been very easy for me to tell Ryan, like, I'm not going out today, but knowing Nick is coming down and doesn't get down that often,
Right.
we're just going to go and make the best of it, and we still, as you saw, have a good time no matter what. And
How could you not?
yeah.
I had a
Yeah.
blast.
Yeah. So, yeah, fish or no fish, it's just fun getting out and being in nature.
100%. 100%. So, you know, I think it's important to always take a step back, right? And I know you guys have listened to the podcast. I've read a lot of what you guys do with Chasing Tides. Now, when you guys got together, well, we can just skip right through college, right? Or right to college, where
I don't remember it anyway, so.
no, right? I mean, obviously you guys grew up all kind of in the outdoors, fishing, surfing, but it's really until you kind of meet your crew that in college you're able to kind of say, okay, high school is great, met some awesome people, but college is kind of finding who you really are, right? In a lot of ways, where you're kind of going through this weird stage and you're picking out your friends and you're testing them out. And then all of a sudden you kind of come out and you have like this little crew, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very apparent that this is the crew as well as Nick over here. So kind of when you guys were going through that, I mean, tell me a little bit about what it was like figuring that out. Like you all like surfing, you all like fishing, and then all of a sudden down the road, you're now doing something called Chasing Tides. So what was the first steps there?
Well, probably, I mean, started back in Virginia Wesleyans where we went to college. We all played lacrosse together. I played with Nick. I just missed Ryan. I moved back to Baltimore for a couple of years, but in that point in time, Nick and Ryan were still here, and I was always visiting and catching up with them and surfing and hanging out and fishing. And then when I moved back, Nick moved back within like a month, and then we just kind of picked up and just we were all working, but in all of our spare time we were surfing and fishing and hanging out and all that.
Doing that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ryan, were you always kind of, I mean, it seems like everyone here kind of has like their own little niche, right? Which in a lot of ways, talking to you guys kind of pushed into where Chasing Tides is. Like I know, Tim, you did a lot of videography type stuff, and you wrote the newspaper at the school, right? And then Ryan and Nick, you're also a big writer, and you guys all kind of did something somewhat in this field, right?
Mm-hmm.
With always the love of the outdoors kind of in the background. Was that something that leaving college and kind of figuring out what's the next step, was this even on your mind whatsoever? That was something that could even be possible?
No, I mean, one, we weren't all together for a couple of years after college. We all kind of went our ways. I've always been in the outdoors. Right out of college, I want to be an archery technician.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed in the hunting world and stuff. But as far as Chasing Tides go, no, I mean, I don't think I bought a camera until Chasing Tides was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, I never did anything photography wise and stuff like that. So it was just all of us getting together, surfing and stuff. You know, I always fished. I surfed a little bit, but meeting Tim and hanging with him, he surfed a lot, so he pushed me to surf a lot. And I can't speak for Nick, but he did a little bit both as well. So we all kind of complement each other as far as that goes. And yeah, I don't think this was ever a thought in our mind until, I don't know, a couple of years ago. We just decided, hey, we all get together. We all go down surfing in Outer Banks together. We all take pictures on our phone. That seems cool. Let's just, you know, find a place for it to put it instead of our own personal stuff.
Yeah. What I love about your guys' story, and something that recently I kind of found out was on our, you know, previous call that we had, was that you guys didn't have any camera experience whatsoever. And I always assumed that you did. But
thank you, YouTube.
Yeah.
So
No, I bought my first camera at the pawn shop that I was working at as, you know, gun shop thing.
Right.
And then I think we bought
Yeah.
GoPros there, and we bought, you know,
I bought
another
my
camera,
there.
and we just like, let's figure this out. I mean, I always liked looking at pictures, so I was like, well, let's figure out how to make those.
Yeah.
And it's taken some time. But yeah, I think 2018 was when I bought the camera. I had no prior, other than like what Instagram little things you can put, filters you can put on, which was stupid. But
vignette. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Ooh, dark and moody.
Yeah. I mean, the three of us, like when we were all back kind of together, forming the friendships and all. I mean, we had a knack for like storytelling. It like something was there. We enjoyed capturing photos, you know, what we could with the iPhones, and then, you know, at one like it wasn't completely simultaneously, but relatively at the same time, all three of us were like, where can we put some of this stuff just as a way for us to just have it for our enjoyment, really for nothing else at all. And we came up with you know, Chasing Tides and an Instagram account, and that was all with buying pawn shop cameras and trying to just piece it together and spending hours on YouTube or just learning from each other. And you know, Ryan and Nick admittedly picked up the photography thing way quicker than I did. But it was just something fun to do, and we wanted a place to just put it because
Sure.
And then, you know, Chasing Tides kind of, every time anybody liked a photo that we didn't know or whatever, we were like, well, that's weird. Like, that's,
Yeah.
But it was like, it developed into more of a passion of, you know, learning to develop that and the story of that day or what it is we're doing.
Kind of like a live journal, if you will.
Yeah. That's a perfect, with like no intention on or direction on where we were taking it initially.
Right.
And then as things evolved, we realized that we really wanted to tap into the thing that we missed the most, which was doing the stuff we like to do all the time. Because at that point we were, you know, developed in our careers and living the 9-to-5 lifestyle of, you know, working Monday through Friday and being like, I can't wait till the weekend, and just hoping to just do whatever we wanted to do come the weekend, no matter what, you know, despite any conditions like you saw today, just go out and, you know, you'll be better for doing it anyway. And then, you know, the one thing that it was always, you know, impactful for me is we would go down to the Outer Banks, surf really fun waves, and then we'd like scroll through Instagram and then see waves somewhere else, exotic or whatever, and be like, oh, I guess we didn't really have fun. You know? And that was always something to me. I'm like, well, that's weird to think, because we just surfed, you know, chest high, clean waves with nobody around.
Had a blast.
And then this
social media.
Yeah, this damn phone is like
telling me I didn't.
Telling me I didn't have fun. So that became like,
that was like our goal, was like we wanted to.
Yeah.
Not that we were like influential people, but we just.
We're not very good surfers.
Yeah.
Like
today we didn't catch fish either.
We're clearly not very good fishermen.
Yeah, we're
I
not.
found that out today.
We just figured if 3 mediocre guys can take mediocre pictures of us doing mediocre surfing,
Yeah.
that, I don't know, we at least look at it.
Right.
Why can't anybody else just go out and have a good time doing what they want to do?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you really simplify it, that's how it kind of steamrolled. Was on that mentality. It was just go do it. You don't have to be great at it. It doesn't have to be the best conditions out there. If you enjoy doing something, just make yourself go because it makes you happy.
Right. Right. And I think you bring up a good point. Like everyone kind of gets stuck in this rut of going to work, going to the gym, doing things that we all know are kind of we're supposed to do.
Yep.
And then you get out of college and you're like, okay, well, what's next? Oh, getting a job, 9 to 5. Like, gonna sit in an office, gonna go, be a fireman, which is great stuff, right? Pursuing your career. But there's a lot more to life than just working, right?
Yep.
And it's kind of the culmination of the two that makes a well-rounded person. So, I think when you meet someone that is doing something outside of the norm, like Nick, like from our Surf Exchange, which we're sitting in right now, and where we had the first podcast, with you guys did a great photography spread. I think that's kind of how we got this relationship kind of started. Yeah. When you see a guy like Nick, and when you see someone in the 9 to 5 grind, Chasing Tides does a great job of bridging that gap, right? And opening the door and opening people's eyes to doing something potentially like Nick. Why is it that you guys chose to go down that path where not only are you exploring someone's hobby like surfing or fishing or, eating good food and cooking and making provisions on the sandbars, but you also incorporate the 9 to 5 grind, right? And that whole aspect of it. Why is that?
Well, we've always thought it was important, one, for us to continue doing the things that we love doing outside of work, just for, again, nothing else, because it made us happy.
Well-being, yeah.
There's nothing funnier than a 32-year-old man getting crushed in sand breaks trying to get a picture with a GoPro. But we just did it because we were having fun.
Yeah.
And some of them turned out really well, but that's what we did. We just had fun with it.
Yeah.
And then there's, as we got deeper into that sentiment and trying to put that message out there, we stumbled across, the Nicks of the world. Mm-hmm. And hey, we can also use this platform to tell those stories that maybe are a little undertold. Mm-hmm. Mar Surf Exchange is not the largest small business in the world.
Right.
It's not the largest surf shop in Virginia Beach by any means,
Mm-hmm.
but what Nick is doing here is really cool. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people out there who decided to make the jump, go against the grain, and form their own path based on a passion, something that they love doing. And we just felt like there's a lot to that, to tell those stories and spread the word for those people in a little bit more organic way than typically you would see.
Right.
Yeah, I know a big thing is just, again, just interest. There's always something more than face value. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to, some of the business features that we've done, the thing now, because as a consumer, there's endless options. Mm-hmm. But to us specifically, what connects us to a brand or a company is the story behind that person.
Right.
So, and then, just like us, we've got jobs. Their job is this business that, we're a consumer of. But, for Nick specifically, it's like, is he still finding time to surf? How does he juggle work with a family and all those other things to do what he loves to do? He obviously loves his business, but I know he loves surfing as well. So how does he manage that? And the cool thing about when we started to jump into those type of features is you learn stuff that you can use in your own life on managing your time, or just any sort of inspirational thing to be like, this guy's building a business from scratch. He's got a family. He's got all these balls up in the air, but he still knows it's important for himself to go and find time to surf.
Right.
And it's so easy to just get, like you said, into that groove of, this is what I do, and just neglecting stuff that, like, really you need to go do that. With you weightlifting. I mean, a perfect example of, I'm sure you're like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym or whatever. Or maybe you're not. That's probably a priority. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's definitely high on the list.
But no, I mean,
But
late,
yeah, I get
late
what
in
you
the
mean.
day, and then you're
Yeah.
like, I have to do that.
Yep,
So
yep.
that was a big thing that we kind of, and again, not really a discussion, but as we started talking, it was like, yeah, all three of us are super interested in the story behind companies and,
Right.
and the owners and all that. And with the features we've done, I mean, Tim from Manorax is another one. Crazy story.
Love Tim.
We love
Yeah,
him. Shout out
yeah.
Manorax.
You know, I saw him at the Miami Boat Show.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
I
I'd love
bet
to
that
hang out
was
with him.
just beautiful
He's
in
so
person.
funny.
Yeah.
I love him.
So that was kind of like the thing that we started discovering, and we started reaching out to companies and hearing those stories. And then another thing for us in that same vein, but maybe not a person as a business, or just normal guys that sales reps, construction workers, or whatever,
Mhm.
but who are also just insane surfers or just super dialed in fishermen. It's like, I want to know what you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how do you do that? Like, what job do I have to get to be able to do that?
Right.
Or, what information are you consuming? So, selfishly, I'm like, I just want to learn as much as I can so I can maybe grow up and be like one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why this podcast exists, is like, I'm curious about the stories behind, brands big and small, and people that are just doing their thing. So I think that's why it's so great to have these two formats. It's like podcast, written word, and then in between. But out of curiosity, because I've talked to a lot of businesses and brands and people, you guys have too, what's the one takeaway you think that each of you have kind of gone through and like, I can actually apply that to my life and see how that works for me? Or maybe you kind of saw something and you're like, you know what, I don't understand I don't even know how that guy does that still.
Mm-hmm. The willingness to just start something, to me, that always, that's a universal theme with everybody that we talk to. Nobody that we talk to has just been given anything.
Mm-hmm.
They had an idea, and the ideas come from so many places, but everything was nothing until somebody made it something,
Mhm.
right? And that's what we always comes back, and it's so cool to hear the people just stick to it, like James Merrill from Opolis.
Mm-hmm.
His professional experience that led him down his path, and then he literally built a global supply chain, the likes of which has not been built before.
Right.
And now he's doing such awesome things with that brand. And it's like the fortitude to just have the idea and then just make it something.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm doing it. And it doesn't matter how long it takes, how difficult it is, like one foot in front of the other, marginal victories, minuscule victories at a time.
Yeah.
Just keep going until it's something.
Yeah.
But
like
just
hearing
get started.
I like hearing how much time it takes for these businesses to actually develop, because sometimes you just see it a pop and you're like, oh, this has been, they probably just had $1 million sitting in the bank account and they started their business.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of these people are working 3 or 4 jobs just to make ends meet so they can get this job going, and it might take 4 or 5 years. Where like the misconception is that you can start a business and it'll be blooming the next day.
Right.
And it's not like that, and that's motivating for for me anyways, to hear those stories, because you don't know what other people go through. You just see that they have a business and like, oh, they must be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't know that he was washing dishes for the last 12 years to get this business up and running.
Yeah.
So those are the things I like to see and hear.
Yeah. Tim?
No, I mean, same thing, that people just do it. On the flip side of the perception side of things is, we might see somebody with a big Instagram following and then get to have a conversation and realize that, business-wise, they're still trying to make ends meet and all that stuff. But yeah, just going for it and making the time, and it's worth it to sell out. It's something that in something that you're passionate about, and if you chip away and stay at it, that eventually, it can turn into a business if that's what you want it to turn into.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I've probably taken away in interviewing people is just, kind of 3 words: time under tension.
Right.
Like, how long am I going to have to push this truck up the hill, and under how much pressure is it going to be?
Yeah.
Right. And there's going to be some days where there's like it's fighting you and the brakes are fighting you the whole way, and there's other days where it's in neutral and you're able to push that thing. It's still heavy as shit, but you're still able to push that thing up the hill, and maybe you get a little down spurt, right? But yeah, the idea of like starting from nothing, going to something, and the amount of time, I think one story that sticks in my head is Corey from Jetty, where it literally took him 18 years to go full time.
He was a big one
Yeah.
for me. Yeah.
Right?
That's what's super motivating to hear that.
Yeah, and then you're like, this guy was not washing dishes, he was a bartender.
Yeah.
Right? But he was a bartender making money to pay his employees before he was even full time. Like, that is some serious dedication.
It's crazy.
It's insane. It's insane.
Crazy. And telling that story and getting that piece of it out there is so important to building the loyalty, right, of the consumer. Or like Tim's wearing a Jetty shirt now.
That was not planned, by the way.
It was not. Yeah.
But knowing that story, it's like, I mean, there's how many other surf clothing apparel brands out there, whatever. We all grew up wearing the Hurleys and O'Neills and Quicksilvers and you name it of the world. But like we know for a fact that dude did what you just said. It's like, yeah, I'm going to go buy that guy's T-shirt.
Right.
Like that is cool. You deserve it, man. You deserve my $25.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to wear a T-shirt. I'm going to give you the money for it. Like
Right.
it's just hearing that stuff is important, and getting those stories out there is important.
Yeah. Why do you think that the waterman culture is so prone to storytelling? I mean, there's so many things that go on along the coastline where you can go to an old fishing village and you can go talk to some guy who's, ripping fish, and he's going to tell you a fish story, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are all things that are just intertwined into the coastal culture versus learning a story behind the car company. Like, it's like, okay, that makes, all right, there's like 4 big car companies around here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. But there's so many little idiosyncrasies by living along the coast that it makes us there's almost too many stories out there for us to even tell.
Yeah.
And which is great because it's just unlimited, right?
Yeah.
But why do you think that is? Why do you think watermen are so prone to having that story?
To me, I think it's
Great question.
yeah. That's an awesome question.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's because of the uncontrollable in every scenario for someone who is a waterman.
Well said.
I mean, like today,
Mm-hmm.
you're literally just a routine outing. There's a story that develops and happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just for the true watermen that are out there doing that, I just think that it's the uncontrollable that really dictates that. You can be prepared, you can have all your ducks in a row, but the ocean or nature just doesn't really give a shit.
Does not give a shit.
Okay.
So,
It is out to kill you.
so
Absolutely. It's just trying to figure out how.
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Slowly,
So
but
there's
sure.
just a certain level of determination and persistence that is just involved in those sort of pursuits.
Right.
To me, I mean would be the big thing.
Yeah. And nature, and specifically the ocean, it's so vast, right? There's so many possibilities that come to it, which is probably why the ocean and the sea has been so wrapped into folklore for as long as the human race has been around, right? Like the Atlantic is our muse. Like that's like she is so much to us and creates so many pivotal moments in our lives.
That's beautiful. Who said that?
I'm willing to bet that's some sort of movie quote, given the fact that it's just been constant movie quotes this whole weekend.
That's the only way we
We're
get
not funny.
laughs. We're not fun. We have to we just
It's
steal.
all recycled.
We're not very original.
But to Tim's point, the unpredictable nature and accomplishing stuff on the water is hard. It takes skill or dumb luck in one way, shape, or form. It's difficult, and I think it's a little bit of human nature when you do accomplish something to, hey man, I did this. You want to tell about it to a certain degree.
Yeah.
and there's so many people that enjoy the ocean. Like, there's bound to be a million stories coming from it. But
Right.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to catch a fish. It's hard to learn how to surf. It's hard to drive a boat. You know,
Yeah.
it's hard to do a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, it's always been something that I think for me growing up on the water, the day is always different.
Yeah.
Right? So if it's stormy and shitty out, it's still, I mean, those stormy and shitty days oftentimes have the best stories that come out of them.
Yeah.
You know, like I can always remember tooling around Narragansett Bay with my little brother, and it was so wet out because there's just spray and whatnot. We took out masks and snorkels, and we were wearing them all the way home because you literally couldn't see because your eyes were just so on fire from the wind and the salt. But it's moments like those that you kind of reflect on. And yeah, was a beautiful, bright, sunny day when you caught a 40-pound striper amazing? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But was the really shitty day when you kind of battled through the waves like we did today? Awesome too? 100%.
Yeah.
You know? So there's really no bad day on the water.
No.
There's no.
Unless you die.
Unless you die or sink.
Could be bad.
But still a great story.
Yeah. Someone will tell you.
Someone will tell it.
We'll tell that story, Ryan. But I mean, to your point of like the good day versus the bad day, though. I mean, how many times have you pinpointed a day, looked at the weather forecast, surf forecast, and you show up and it's just blowing, it's flat, or it's way too big than you anticipated, and it's just, I mean, they're gonna do it or I'm not, but this is what I've been dealt, and
Right.
there's again determination and persistence that goes into all that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just, nature does not care.
Nature does not give a shit. And neither does business either.
No.
Like the market is going to do its thing. People are going to either buy your stuff or they're not. And it's how you present it and twist your little perspective on it that is going to determine whether or not you're successful. So as you guys kind of go through this next iteration of Chasing Tides, where strictly it was mostly an online blog / live journal of curating what you guys love to do, what's this next iteration that we're kind of going into?
Nicholas?
So it took us a while to figure out what that was.
Why is that?
There's a bunch of reasons. How much time you got, sir?
You got time.
Yeah.
It all starts from, again, how we started. There was never, a direct plan of what this was going to be. So it was entirely organic process of how it evolved over time. And finally, we kind of got to the point where we felt good enough about the engagement and just the feedback that came to us totally unsolicited. That gave us enough confidence to be like, okay, there's probably something here, and as a team, we have a lot of confidence. As individuals, we're very like, oh man, this sucks. But
We're like, what are these people talking about?
yeah. But when we feel good about what we do when the three of us are able to collaborate and build something together. So we knew that we wanted to keep doing that because the more we did it, the more we realized how much we enjoyed it. And I think it's part we just love being together because obviously we're very good friends, and it's a reason to keep us together as close as we are. But again, we got to a point where we're like, all right, let's take a shot at this. We think we have something here. And, we came up, we flirted with a few different ideas of what that was going to be. Were we just going to do, service for hire, photography, copywriting, that type of stuff. And we did a little bit of that, we worked with a few people doing some stuff, and we realized we just wanted to own it. Everything we have always done has always been 100% us for the most part. We've worked with other people and collaborated and learned from other companies, but the stuff that we've created has always been us.
Our own logos, our own website. We never hired anybody else to do any of that stuff.
Yeah, and we taught ourselves how to do everything. And so we when we decided that we didn't just want to be a service for other people, we wanted our own thing. So we said, okay, well, we got to kind of productize somehow. And we came up with the idea of the magazine. In a nutshell, we were already producing that type of content. We were taking photos, editing, designing, writing. It was just living on our website and on our social platforms. So, we've always been big fans of magazines growing up ourselves, something about having something in your hands that you can do. And we were like, what kind of product wraps all that into one? And it was the magazine. So that's when we came up, okay, but this is what we're going to do. This is the direction that we're going to go. And that was recently. That was
very recent.
very recently. Like, we're talking months.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, Nick talked about the slow evolution, and sometimes I'm a doer. I'm like, wait, we need to figure this out. But every time we kind of gave it some extra time, something else developed, and there's no way we could have done or gotten to where we are now right when we got out of college. Like we needed to experience the working world and get some real life experience under our belt to understand and place our values.
Sure.
So I think all of that is like ingrained. I mean, we've been in the professional world for at least 10 years now. So it's like, okay, well, there's a lot of stuff in there we don't want to do.
We know what we don't want.
Yeah. So, but again, just back to that love of storytelling. I mean, what better way than a magazine to be that product and platform to
100%.
continue telling the stories that we are, and if it gives us even more flexibility, I think, to expand on that and do even more creative things, which we're starting to develop now.
Yeah. It's kind of cool how things evolve, right?
Yeah.
Like you start it with where you're dead set on doing something, right? Like I remember talking to you guys, we're like, yeah, we're working with this guy, we're doing his copy stuff, and that was like, oh, sweet, that seems like the direction that it's going to go. And then you start to do something else, and it's like, oh, wait, you know what? Maybe this isn't the right direction. Like maybe we're kind of getting too ahead of ourselves, and you kind of take a step back, and then you reevaluate, and you go forth with something else, and it's those small steps over a long period of time that eventually build up to where we are now, to even make that decision to be like, okay, magazine's where we got to go, you know? And it's kind of like with this podcast, right? Like it evolved from selfishly a way to go look for a job, honestly.
Yeah.
It was me trying to get into an industry that I really love to be a part of, while I didn't have to be behind the helm of a boat all the time, right? Because that's not scalable. Like you can't really grow from that unless you want to be just doing that. So as it evolved, now we're doing them in person, and now we're working on retail stuff and all this other things that we're kind of doing, right? But it takes that one step to do that in order for you to even make the decision of whether or not we're going to go this way or that way. Right. So with the magazine starting to come to fruition, why is it that you could have gone like book, like a coffee table book, quarterly magazine is what you guys have landed on. A magazine is there's a lot of nostalgia that's wrapped up in that. Like I can remember, getting Bodybuilding magazine because that's, part of my existence, right? Or like reading the encyclopedia of, the Arnold Encyclopedia was like a huge thing growing up. Like it was always on the kitchen table, or the coffee table. Like this is what you guys are creating, is one of those items that you kind of look at. Way to go. You kind of look at, and you take a moment to really engage with that story.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're not just in a doctor's office picking up a magazine. It's like, okay, some BS article. Like the stories that Nick has over here, you're really kind of taking a moment to say, how do I relate to that? And building those stories, which you guys already have. Why do you think a magazine was the right choice?
For me, it's like a life lesson here is like figure out what you don't like first, more than you like. And that can be applied to anything. It could be applied to a surfboard. Try a couple different surfboards, figure out what you don't like, and that leads you to what you like. Fishing equipment, same thing. So with that, we kind of, over the couple of years, we figured out what we don't want to do and we don't want to be, and that kind of led us to this point of this is really our product. The stuff we're doing, I don't know what other way we could have possibly do it any more better than like a coffee book magazine style. Like we want to be kind of a little timeless. We don't want it just to be, here's a junky magazine, you read it for a couple of seconds and you put it down and you forget about it. We want it's almost kind of a way to like to show our work, you know, like
Right.
almost like a portfolio a little bit. Like a fine, thick magazine or coffee book magazine is more of like artistic. There's a lot more thought, I think, into it, where magazines is more like maybe salesy.
Right.
We want to be on more the artistic side of it because that's, you know,
It can live
creativity.
on.
Yeah, you know, with the writing, with our photography, like that's a better hub for it, I think.
Mhm. Build some legacy with it.
Yeah.
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 And you said it well, Zach. You know, when you pick it up, you're there in that moment with it. You're holding it. It's tactile. It's why, you know, people still like photos, printing photos and having them. You know, it's. I got 1,000,001 pictures on my phone.
Never look at them.
I rarely ever look at them.
Right.
You know,
Right.
except for my daughter. I look at her quite a bit. Everything else, you know, my wife started printing out photos recently just from our phones.
Right.
And they just sit around our house. And I look at them all the time and think, why did I go so many years not doing this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just awesome to just be there in that moment and hold something and truly identify it and just be, you know, one with it for a second, like of having it there in your hand. And there's, you know, to Ryan's point, the creativity that it allows us to go that's the best medium. You know, we found it
Yeah.
finally.
When we're together, like putting these magazine articles in place and formatting, like you can just feel the energy between the three of us of like, this is exactly what we want to be doing. And
Being drunk and talking shit to each other. Yeah, pretty much it.
Having a lot of special beers. And making
Yeah,
magazine.
yeah.
What's better than that?
They just yell at me
Yeah.
and I get angry.
But it just gets us back into that space of, you know, how we started of it's like, man, this is the direction. This is something we need to learn again. And it's just motivating, and it's been a fun process learning to piece it all together. And then, you know, another thing with the coffee book style magazine is it does the people who we're telling stories about, it does them justice.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they might not be famous or whatever, but, you know, as far as we're concerned, those people have incredible stories and they deserve to be somewhere and have those stories told.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And that's kind of what I like about you guys is like you're not discriminatory towards, you know, whether that person is going to give you X amount more, you know, following or push to the website. It's just flat out like, you got a great story, let's go ahead and tell it, you know? And so when you guys look for someone to interview or tell a story or find a product or brand, what do you guys look for?
Another great question.
Yeah,
it's
Strong facial features.
Awesome.
Good with movie quotes in the office and
Yeah,
parts
yeah.
of that.
It's-
Make me laugh.
Yeah.
It might not be a universal thing, but it's always something that just kind of hits the three of us or one of us. It's like, hey, I think we got to check this out. I think we got to look into this. That there's something about this story that resonates personally. And maybe I just said it talking out loud. The stories that you can identify with. When you hear, when you read or see, it touches you because you think to yourself, yep, I get that.
Yep.
I'm not doing the same exact thing you are, but that experience, that thought process, whatever it is, I identify with that. And there's got to be other people out there that do too.
Sometimes I don't even hit all three of us at once, but one of us will be super engaged to it, and then we kind of not sell ourselves, but go into, oh, it's like this, and then it's like, oh crap, that is exactly like that. Now it hits to me.
Right.
Where, oh, it might be just me because I'm slow, but that's how I feel. Go ahead, Tim. Next.
No, I mean there's always an attraction, whether it's an Instagram post or just hearing a story about somebody, and you know, if it's a company, if their products are, you know, unique or well built or something that I could use in whatever it is that I do, you know, mainly surfing or fishing, then that's, to me, that's where I'll kind of look into it, and then yeah, just read more about the person, or, you know, try and contact them and just be like, hey, how did this start and whatever. And
Sure.
more often than not, when we get responses back, we're like, oh, wow, you know, this
Right.
person has, you know, bootstrapped this, or, you know, they've left the corporate world to do this and sell it all. And those are motivating factors for us. But it's funny where, you know, like Jack with Farrow board bags. I mean,
Sure.
he's a perfect example of someone who, I mean, the first time we talked to him, I felt
Jack's a cool dude.
I felt like
Yeah.
I've known him my entire life.
Yeah.
Because it was, I mean, just to a T, a lot of the same values and driving passions that we have. And he's someone who is bootstrapping it and trying to build a business based off of a passion that he, you know, has, and it's inspiring, and plus his products are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So it's you never. I mean, you really never know unless you ask.
Right.
Yeah. And the information that we can tell doesn't help someone else. You know, if we're telling a story, somebody reading that story can learn about a product that helps them do something better or spend more time doing what they love. We want to tell that story. Or just somebody's story, you know, as they were building their own brand. Is there a tidbit in there that if we share this is helpful to other people?
Right.
You know, who may be in a similar position, or, you know, flirting on the line of, man, do I want to take the jump and try to start my own thing that I've been thinking about? You know, is putting that information out there to help other people is a huge piece of it as well.
Right. Right. I think you bring up a good point in talking about it from the consumer's perspective, right?
Yeah.
Of like, what are they thinking when they're reading your story or listening to a podcast or consuming any content? And I think for me, it's always been like trying to get someone to think, oh shit, I can do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Bingo.
because whenever there's a lot of brands out there that I'm like, they're making how much?
Right.
Or they're doing what in terms of, you know, and just if we use numbers in terms of just a way to measure, right?
Yeah.
Like their volume's what? And you're like, man, how come I can't do that? You know, and then you're going through the steps and you're like, oh shit, I actually can do this.
Yep.
You know, like it's just going to take me a little bit longer. I'm going to have to learn, you know, like I'm not great at photography or videography, but Tyler.
Neither are we. So.
You guys are doing a good job.
You didn't
trust me.
start at the pawn shop. That was that was your mistake.
No, I got a Tyler instead.
That is true. That is true.
Tyler
So-
took one for the team today, by the
Yeah.
way.
Tyler
Yeah,
did
Tyler.
take one for the team for sure.
Yeah.
100%. Luckily, the gear survived.
He won
Yes.
the most wet dude. Can't speak.
You're cut off for
Yeah, sorry.
you take a back seat
Too many
for
W words.
But, I mean, one thing that I noticed about you guys is you work really, really well together. Like, obviously, you guys are no strangers. Like, you've known each other since college. But it seems like there's a defined role kind of for everyone almost that you guys just fell into, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't you're this person, you're this person, you're this person. It was Tim is really good at writing, right? Ryan's the graphic design and photography guy. Nick, you're really good at like putting the pieces together and making it and kind of come together. And not to say that you guys don't each contribute to those buckets, but there's someone for each job, right? Why do you think you fell into, or maybe I'm totally wrong about each one, but why is it you guys kind of chose those roles or fell into them?
That took a long time, actually.
Yeah.
That probably took us longer to figure that out more than where Chasing Tides is going to head. But it's just figuring out everybody's strengths and what everybody can bring to the table and add to the most success to our story or whatever. You know, I mean, we all contribute. We all take pictures. You know, Tim will take a better picture than all three of us.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Get that in writing. Get that in
but
writing.
obviously, you know, he's a good writer. Nick is a very good writer.
Yeah.
I don't write at all. I can barely read. So we just threw that one out the
apparently
window.
talk, too.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah. Words are not good. Not a word guy.
That's how they call you Newt.
I just
That's
smile. Yeah. But yeah, we just over time we actually gave each other roles a long time ago, and then we're like, okay, well that didn't really work well. Let's go back to the drawing board and let's reshape this, and it kind of kept on going. And like, not a title doesn't really do anything for you other than your own peace of mind, maybe.
Right.
But it doesn't really. But we just kind of over time figured out who's strong at what and this is the best way we can run this business.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
grow a business. As
Yeah.
our mindset started changing to, hey, there's something there. Like, this is a business. Let's start acting like it. Those responsibilities or titles kind of just organically happen, but based off of, what we enjoy as well, because this is obviously not our day jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it too, is, all we have jobs, we have busy lives, and we've got something that we want to build into a business, but it's going to be difficult to do that if you're not doing things that you don't like to do.
Right.
Not to say that we don't chip in and do whatever, but if the three of us can figure out what we enjoy doing so that when we have our spare time and we're building for the business, we can be as productive as possible.
Right.
It also
Yeah.
helps us with sorry, you go ahead. I talked already.
Well, it has taken a while, but now
I like to say something now. It's good.
It's funny because we've gotten a little bit to the point where now when we know we're going to do something, we're taking a project on, we all have kind of this internal thing inside that we know, okay, Tim's probably going to do X, Y, and Z, Ryan's probably going to do X, Y, and Z, Nick's probably going to do X, Y, and Z. But that took a whole lot, just working together and figuring out, roles aside, that, you said it, we have a great working relationship at times.
Yeah, you should hear some of these phone calls.
Yeah. One of the foundational pieces, though, and just to preface it with this, is we've always kind of put the friendship first.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to go into business with two of your very close friends.
Yeah,
Right.
100%.
There are times that aren't sunshine and roses, and we don't always agree.
Yeah.
And we had to figure out how to work that situation. And to that degree, I think the best way we've done it is to just be very open with each other.
Yeah.
And, our lines of communication have to be open.
Right.
And to the extent that they are now, they weren't always that way. We've had to kind of learn and grow, honestly, as friends.
Sure.
To come into business, to be business partners.
What would be an example of that?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, to get on the track that we are on right now, I mean, we had a probably as aggressive of a come to Jesus moment as you could possibly have as three good friends looking down, and that was, a few months ago, of just trying to just get everything on the table. This is how each of us feel. This is what we want out of this. And then just, constructively criticizing and getting to the point of just brutal honesty to figure out, like, this is something we all want, but that we need to have a foundation in place. We need to just have open communication and understand where we're going.
Right. Right.
And a lot of that issue we found out from that animated conversation
Was me.
no, was that, we didn't have a product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had all of these pie in the sky ideas and 50,000 ways to achieve them, but
No direction.
right, and we found out that was a bit more important